Consider how often you've been positioned in the right place at the right time, how paths have crossed with the exact people needed to shape your next step. There are moments that could not have aligned by human calculation. Behind them is an intelligence that sees beyond your vision, anticipating needs before you recognize them, orchestrating outcomes that will only make sense when you look back. You may resist it at times, believing you've been forgotten, but in truth, you are being guided with an accuracy that no mortal plan could replicate. The delays you mourn are the very tools by which this unseen force protects and perfects your journey. In its wisdom, it allows the breaking as well as the building. It removes what you cling to, not to punish, but to prepare you for what your limited understanding cannot yet hold. There is mercy hidden even in disappointment, for the force that governs your steps knows the weight of what you carry and the weakness of what you trust. It removes your false securities so you might rest in something unshakable. You cannot see all the lines being drawn, but each one connects to a destiny beyond the scope of your imagination. Those who live unaware of this guidance often move through life burdened by fear, as though every outcome depends solely on their effort. But those who awaken to its reality begin to sense a quiet assurance that nothing truly meant for them will ever slip away. They understand that even in apparent stillness, something divine is at work, aligning, preparing, and leading them forward. This awareness transforms how you interpret hardship. What once looked like loss now appears as rearrangement. What seemed delayed now feels deliberate. The unseen force guiding you does not rush because it operates outside the limits of time. It is patient, waiting for the fullness of your growth before revealing its reasons. It is gentle enough to let you question, yet powerful enough to ensure that your destiny unfolds despite your doubts. Every movement of this force carries intention to shape your heart, refine your faith, and lead you toward what was always yours to become. It is not chaos that directs your life, but purpose wearing the disguise of uncertainty, guiding you with an unseen, unwavering hand. Every delay, loss, or redirection is part of a greater divine design. What feels like a setback in your eyes is often the unfolding of something larger than your understanding. You see only a fragment of the picture, while the rest remains hidden behind the veil of time. The moments that wound you, the paths that close abruptly, the seasons that test your endurance, none of them are wasted. Each carries a purpose too intricate to see when you are standing in the middle of the storm. The divine does not operate through convenience, but through transformation, and transformation rarely comes wrapped in comfort. There are times when you pray for open doors, yet find only silence. You wait for breakthroughs, but what you receive is delay. It is easy then to assume you have been ignored or overlooked. Yet, what if the waiting is not a punishment but preparation? What if the silence is not absence but alignment? The greater design often requires that certain things fall apart so that better things may find space to emerge. The very delays that frustrate you are the pauses that allow the unseen hand to rearrange people, circumstances, and timing in your favor. Loss too carries meaning. When something or someone leaves your life, it is tempting to see only the emptiness left behind. But there are losses that act as pruning, cutting away what cannot accompany you into your next chapter. The divine removes what will limit your growth, even if it means breaking your heart for a moment. In the greater pattern, such losses make room for greater strength, greater clarity, and deeper faith. You were never meant to hold everything. Some things must be released so that your hands can receive what was always intended for you. Redirections are perhaps the most misunderstood part of this design. When your plans collapse, when the road you were certain of suddenly vanishes, it feels like failure. Yet, what if the collapse is the very method by which you are steered away from what would have destroyed you? The higher will does not always guide through open doors. Sometimes it saves you through closed ones. The path you did not plan becomes the road you were always meant to walk. It is not a detour. It is the true route, revealed only when you surrender your need to control the map. If you could step outside your present and see your life from the vantage of eternity, you would marvel at how every delay aligned perfectly, how every loss was a necessary exchange, how every redirection led you closer to the heart of purpose. The design is not random. It is deliberate, sacred, and exact. What you see as fragments are, in truth, pieces of a masterpiece being assembled with patience, timing, and grace. True transformation begins when you recognize you are never walking alone. The moment this awareness dawns upon your spirit, the world begins to look different. The air feels charged with meaning, and even silence begins to speak. You start to sense a presence that has followed you through every valley and every victory, one that has watched you stumble yet never abandoned you. The illusion of isolation fades, and in its place grows the quiet realization that every heartbeat has been accompanied by an unseen companion who walks beside you through the shifting seasons of life. When you live believing you are alone, fear becomes your master. You measure every step through anxiety, thinking the weight of the journey rests solely on your strength. You question your worth, doubt your purpose, and struggle to find direction. But the moment you awaken to the truth that you are guided, protected, and loved by a presence greater than yourself, the chains of fear begin to loosen. You realize that the same force that created the stars has also ordered your steps. It has been near in every sigh, present in every tear, and faithful in every silence. Transformation does not begin with the changing of circumstances, but with the changing of perception. When you see your struggles as shared rather than solitary, they no longer feel unbearable. You begin to find meaning in moments that once felt meaningless. You start to notice that the timing of events, the people who enter your life, and even the hardships that push you to your limits are not random. They are gentle reminders that there is purpose in your pain and order in your chaos. This awareness begins to heal the heart more deeply than success or recognition ever could. The recognition of divine companionship teaches humility. It shows you that strength was never about standing alone, but about learning to lean on the presence that has always been with you. It is in this leaning that transformation truly begins. You stop striving to control every outcome and instead begin to trust the unseen rhythm guiding your life. You discover that surrender is not weakness but wisdom. The wisdom to allow yourself to be led, even when the path is uncertain. Every soul must pass through moments of darkness to learn this truth. When the light seems far away, and you can no longer trace the outline of hope, that is when the unseen hand draws nearest. You are shaped most deeply in those times when you feel forgotten, for it is then that you are being prepared to recognize what has always been with you. Once this awareness settles in your heart, loneliness transforms into communion, despair into trust, and fear into quiet strength. The realization that you have never walked alone becomes the foundation of a life that can no longer be shaken by uncertainty or loss. What feels like chaos is often careful orchestration by a higher will. Life rarely unfolds in the straight lines we imagine. It twists, it breaks, it rearranges itself in ways that make no sense to our limited understanding. We stand within the storm, confused and fearful, unable to see how any of it could hold purpose, yet what appears to be disorder from the ground often forms perfect symmetry when seen from above. The divine mind works with precision, weaving both the bright threads of joy and the dark strands of trial into a single, coherent design. Every shift, every delay, every sudden change carries meaning that will one day reveal itself in clarity. The moments that seem most uncertain are often the ones carrying the greatest preparation. Chaos has a way of cleansing what comfort cannot. It strips away illusions, exposes attachments, and forces the soul to reach for something beyond its own strength. In those seasons, it is easy to believe everything is falling apart, but more often than not, things are falling into place. The higher will dismantles your false securities, only to build foundations that cannot be shaken. What you interpret as loss is sometimes the rearranging of pieces to align with a future you cannot yet see. There are times when doors slam shut, relationships dissolve, and paths vanish overnight. You question the purpose, wondering if you took a wrong turn or missed a sign. Yet even in that confusion, the orchestration continues. The higher will allows certain endings not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Some paths must close so that destiny can unfold. The chaos that surrounds you is not random. It is the language of creation in motion, shaping you through contrast and redirection. When storms rise, the mind seeks immediate explanation. It wants control, logic, and visible proof of meaning. But the higher orchestration does not conform to human timelines or understanding. It works silently, often through disruption, because growth rarely happens in stillness. The storm you fear may be the very wind required to move you to the next stage of your purpose. What feels like destruction is sometimes construction in disguise. The breaking down of what cannot last to make room for what must endure. If you could see how delicately each moment is placed, how even pain and confusion are woven into your unfolding story, you would stand in awe rather than fear. The chaos that terrifies you now may one day be the evidence of how closely guided you were. There is an order beneath every seeming disorder, a rhythm within every silence, and a plan behind every detour. The higher will does not lose control, even when everything around you appears uncertain. It is not confusion that governs your life, but intention, quietly shaping each fragment of your journey into harmony with what was meant to be. Awakening to the presence behind your journey changes how you endure every season. Once your eyes begin to perceive that there is purpose behind each moment, even the difficult ones, the way you move through life begins to transform. You no longer see challenges as punishments or delays as signs of neglect. Instead, you begin to sense meaning hidden within them, a quiet rhythm of divine order moving beneath your struggles. Awareness turns pain into process and process into growth. What once felt unbearable starts to carry a strange kind of peace, for you begin to understand that nothing touches your life without reason. When you awaken to this truth, your perspective shifts from reaction to reflection. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" This change in perspective is the birth of resilience. You learn that every storm carries wisdom, every silence invites listening, and every ending makes space for renewal. The awareness of divine presence allows you to see the unseen hand guiding events, shaping your path, and turning what was meant for harm into the soil of transformation. Even your failures begin to serve you, teaching you strength that comfort never could. Endurance, once fueled by fear, becomes rooted in trust. You learn to wait differently, not with anxiety, but with calm assurance that what is meant to come will arrive at the right hour. This does not remove struggle, but it reshapes your response to it. You start to see patience as a form of faith and surrender as an act of wisdom. Seasons of darkness no longer threaten to destroy you. They become places where you grow deeper roots. The presence behind your life turns each hardship into an invitation to trust more fully, to stand more firmly, and to hope more fiercely. This awakening also changes how you see others. You begin to realize that every person you meet, every encounter along your journey, carries divine purpose. Some are sent to challenge you, others to comfort, some to test, and some to remind you of who you are. You start to live with gratitude for what once caused you pain, because you can finally see the hand of purpose behind it all. What once made you bitter now makes you wiser. What once broke you now teaches you compassion. When you live with this awareness, peace no longer depends on perfect circumstances. The uncertainty of life loses its power to shake you, because you know you are being carried, guided, and prepared for something beyond what the present reveals. Each season, whether joyous or difficult, becomes sacred ground. You move through life not as one lost, but as one led. The awareness of the presence behind your journey steadies your heart, softens your fears, and fills every moment with quiet significance that no storm can erase.